Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It's Thursday of week 8 on Draftkings, and I'm here to talk to you about 5 of the top stacks that I have for the week. These are not all of the stacks that are in play. These are not stacks that I believe you have to play. You get to make your own decisions. If you disagree with me on a stack, don't play that stack. If I didn't mention a stack, I love how communicative you guys are in the replies, but you don't need to go in the replies and say, I'm shocked you didn't mention this stack. That doesn't make you sharp. If you think that a stack is going, unmentioned or underplayed, or people aren't going to talk about it during the week, but you think that it's one of the top 2 or 3 stacks on the weekend, play it in tournaments. You don't get bonus points for being right in the YouTube comments. You get bonus dollars for being right on Sundays every single week during NFL season. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys. I really, really do. You guys have been outstanding this football season. We've got the 10% rule on this channel. If this video gets 15,000 views, we need 1,500 likes plus on the video. If you're new, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. I come out with an absolute metric ton of content throughout every season. A new video, at least one, every single day except Saturdays, while you guys are making lineups to try and help you and aid you. And I'm not here to give you a full lineup. I'm here to try and teach you the processes that you need to help you become better players and how to think about making lineups. Rather teach you how to fish than give you a fish, so that you can then go about it and win. And I know that a lot of the players in our community have done a great job of improving this season and seen great improvement in their mass multi-entry skills, which is something that we do focus on here, is learning how to be a better mass multi-entry player. Mass multi-entry meaning 20 lineups, 100 lineups, 150 lineups, and using a lineup optimizer. The Thursday show, this show, the Top Stack show, we focus on the Rotogrinders optimizer and learning how to build stacks and bringbacks to use in your lineups. And I'm not saying that you have to enter 150 times in a million maker like I do every single week. If that's out of your bankroll, don't do that. Don't chase. But they do have options at like 10 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents for you to enter 150 or 20 lineups in the mini max games, so that you're getting in with your 150 for like $15 or $75 with a chance to win $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And that's real money for a very low risk entry fee to see if mass multi-entry is something that you're very good at. So let's get to the 5 stacks that I want to talk about. And starting with the cover boy, Russ Wilson has been absolutely outstanding. Yes, I know that it's a difficult matchup against San Francisco's defense, but that defense is a little bit more banged up than it has been in the past and is not as efficient as it has been in the past. And I don't know that anybody's really going to stop Russ Wilson from doing Russ Wilson things. 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Every single game this year, multiple touchdowns, and only one where he's had less than 3 in any single game. And the beautiful thing is we know who we can stack him with based on how he throws the ball and where he throws the ball to his players. 2 of his receivers, and you know who they are in the top 5 in terms of end zone targets so far this year. DK Metcalf, who I believe is a superstar personally, and is just going to continue to get better as the year goes on and as the seasons go on. His best skill is his ability to get deep. He has a high ADOT, average depth of target. He's somebody that gets down the field, and if San Francisco's defense is most vulnerable somewhere, it's on deep throws. And Tyler Lockett, operating on the short to intermediate routes, operating more out of the slot with a lower ADOT, higher convertible targets to catches. We're not going to see 20 targets all the time. That's just not a realistic situation. He's had 2 massive games with 3 touchdowns and 3 touchdowns. And the other games, a few more modest outcomes. So clearly he's somebody who has a ceiling, but also has a very possible floor as well. So let's go over to the lineup HQ over on Rotogrinders. There is a link down below in the pinned comment from me, rotogrinders.com/smizzlife, if you wanted to go sign up for a new account on Rotogrinders. Taking a look here, we go to Seattle. I've got everybody X'd out for this. We're going to enable this team. I'm going to use between 1 and 2 of his pass catchers. I'm not going to use the backs. I'm going to keep this as simple as possible with this group. I'm going to include Olsen in that group because he does target him once they get close. I'm going to use 1 or 2 of Greg Olsen, Lockett, and Metcalf. And if you really want to get aggressive, you can make sure that every one of those lineups has 2 of 2. We're going to build our bring back stack coming here, going to Wilson, making sure that we enable it. I'm going to use at least 1, maybe 2 And there's a lot of value on San Francisco here as well. You can use McKinnon. You can use running backs in your bring back stacks, and I do very often, actually. I allow the optimizer to use them in the bring back group. So Tevin Coleman, don't know if he's going to be activated or not. Not going to use check. Am going to use Hasty in that bring back group, as he should see more volume this week based on all the injuries that they have on the running back side there. Am definitely going to use Kittle. Trent Taylor should be manning the slot. Brandon Ayuk, and that is basically it that I'm going to allow for this 1 to 2 players on the other side. A lot of value on San Francisco. So I'm going to go back to team player groups. That's going to bring us to my second stack, and that's the San Francisco 49ers on the other side of this game. This is the game that I most likely want to attack because of the condensed target tree on both teams. The injuries on San Francisco, coupled with the injuries on San Francisco's defense and how condensed the target tree already is on Seattle, leads me to want to use stacks and bringbacks from both sides of this game. Garoppolo gives us a much better value profile, and his receivers give us a much better value profile than spending up for a combo or a double stack with Wilson to Metcalf to Lockett. We can get 1 or 2 of them as a bring back player and still lock in a lot of value on this other side of the game. And when you look at the defense versus position tool on rotogrinders.com, you can see that the Seattle Seahawks have allowed 368.5 passing yards per game to their 6 opponents that they've had this year, 5 of them reaching 300-yard bonus. I understand the floor is very realistic with Jimmy Garoppolo, and there are plenty of game scripts that could lead you to a 12-point outcome from him, but there's also plenty of game scripts that would lead us to a 25-point outcome, basically like 300+ yards from Jimmy and 3 touchdowns. That is not outside of the realm of possibility of something that could happen in this matchup if the Seahawks get out to a little bit of a lead and the San Francisco 49ers and Jimmy G have to chase from behind. Talked about some of the injuries that they have on this team. Mostert out. Wilson out. McKinnon really great in the passing game. Hasty, we don't know. Coleman might be activated for this game. We don't know. Juszczyk is a fullback, and I'm not really that concerned with the amount of volume that he's going to get. Deebo Samuel out, leaving Ayuk. Bourne is a very real thing that is going to happen this week at 3,500, 5,800 for Ayuk, who had 100 yards last week once Deebo Samuel left that game. And Trent Taylor probably going to be the guy manning the slot at 3K. We always have the ever-present George Kittle, who should get peppered with targets this week as well. This could be another 10+ target game for him, especially if San Francisco is playing from behind. So for those sorts of game scripts, we're going to go down here. We're going to enable that group. I'm not going to include the running backs in this group, not going to include the fullback in this group, not going to include Dwelly or Warner. It's going to be very simplistic what I do with him. And I kind of want to go all in with this Jimmy G stack with Trent Taylor, Ayuk, and Bourne and Kittle. So I'm going to use exactly 2 of these guys in my Garoppolo stacks, because if Garoppolo has 20 fantasy points or 25 fantasy points, if we get that 5x on his salary, then we're probably going to get this on the other side. And opponent player groups, now we're getting into injuries, and I can't tell you what the injuries are going to look like on the other side here. So if I go here, enable this group, go to 1 to 2 of the players on Seattle, we just don't know. There's a lot of if-thens to set up here on Seattle in terms of the running game. I am going to include at least the running back that I think will get the most volume. We don't know if Carson's going to play. If Carson doesn't play, we don't know if Hyde's going to play. If Hyde and Carson don't play, then DJ Dallas is the most non-injured running back that they have. So I'm going to include one of them. Let's just say it's Hyde for argument's sake right now, because we just don't know. And I'm probably not going to include Homer at all. He's just kind of X'd out for me. Penny Hart, Lockett, David Moore, probably not going to include him. I don't need the extra value. Swain, no. It's going to be used 1 to 2 of this grouping of 4 for my bring back groups for Jimmy G. And if you want to make sure that you get 2 of them, fine. If you don't want to include the running back, that's fine too. This is just a beginning group that you want to look at, and you might want to boost them or limit them any way that you want to do it. If you say, you know what, I just want very simple Lockett and Metcalf only, then X the other 2 guys out and go with Lockett and Metcalf only in those Jimmy G stacks. Third one, Patrick Mahomes may come in underplayed this week, because everybody wants to think that, well, if they're favored by this many points, if they're favored by like 19 or 19.5 points, then they're going to run the ball the whole game. But that's not how that works. If they score 35 points in real life in this game, which is what the implied team total is, it is not out of the realm of possibility to think that 21 of those are going to be the result of Patrick Mahomes' touchdown passes. So we have some very distinct value that we can go with. He is the highest priced quarterback on the board. We can certainly pay up to be contrarian and fade the running game if you want to fade either CEH being the 5-box running back, which I don't know if he's a 5-box running back anymore because I don't think he's going to approach 20 touches in games moving forward. Or if you want to play the Le'Veon Bell revenge game, they're going to get him at least one touchdown in this spot on the very real possibility of 10 to 13 touches here. You can play that, but the passing game is viable in this game, but it's going to have to be extremely efficient, as I do not expect Mahomes to approach 40 passing attempts. He may have to have a Lamar Jacksonian sort of game from last season where he throws the ball 24 times but has 3 or 4 touchdown passes. And against the Jets defense, I hate to say it, but that's kind of in play. So going with Mahomes, if you wanted to include Tyreek Hill, great. Fine with him. You want to include Robinson, who is still a value at 3,100 coming off of that snow game last week. I'm fine including him in those stacks. And if you want to go with Kelsey, I'm fine with him as well. I am going to be a little bit more careful with how I do these stacks, and we'll talk about that right now in how I'm going to build them. I'm probably not going to use double stacks, and I'm okay using what we call skinny stacks, which is a player from Kansas City in a stack with Mahomes without a bring back. So we'll talk about how to do that real quick. So I'm probably going to allow 2, maybe 3 or 4 guys in this group. This is the bring back group. That's not what I want. Kansas City, Mahomes, enabled. I'm not going to use the running backs, although I know that they do catch passes. I'm not going to use either of the tight ends that aren't him. Not going to use Byron Pringle. Not going to pop into him. Kemp. You can include Hardman if you want the big plays, but there's just no usage right now. But he is somebody that can score 2 touchdowns anytime he takes the field on 3 or 4 targets. So if you want to include him in your groups, that's fine with me. He's clearly projected to not be rostered all that much on the week. But look at what the projected rostership is of all these guys. 10% for Kelsey, 10% for Tyreek Hill. And are you telling me that 120 yards and 2 touchdowns is out of the realm of possibility for either of these gentlemen? I don't think so. I'm probably going to use exactly 1 in my groups. If you say you're going to want to be a little bit more aggressive and include 1 to 2 of them in your Mahomes stacks, that's fine with me. I'm probably going to go with 1, and I'm going to allow for skinny stacks, meaning that I'm going to set this to at most 1 player from this group, which will allow for a bring back player, but not force a bring back player from the Jets. But I'm going to have to put it on Mahomes for that to be a thing. So as we get through this, depending on Crowder's injury status, if he's out, clearly I'm going to allow Berrios, Smith, Perriman, Mims. If Crowder's out, we have a lot of value guys, all of them projected at less than 1% played. And there's a lot of data that in games where teams are the last 20 games, I think, forgive me if I get this stat wrong. I saw it on Twitter yesterday and I did not bookmark it. And I wish that I had at this point. But like in the last 20 games where teams have been a 17-point underdog or more, 15 or so of them have had a 100-yard receiver on those days. So if you want to include exactly 1 bring back in your Mahomes stacks, I'm fine with it. If you want to say I'm going to use a skinny stack, meaning just Mahomes with no bring back with a max of 1, that's fine as well. But there is a chance that the Jets are going to have to throw a lot if they're going to keep up in this game, which means elevated targets for some really cheap and underplayed players. Moving on to my next stack, it's going to be Joey Burrow. We were on him last week. I'm going to stay on him this week. Going against Tennessee, which is a pass funnel. I think that Burrow's price on DraftKings is just too cheap. I think he should be 66 to 6,800. He's 6,200, so we get a little bit of a value here. We also have 3 very viable receivers that we can stack him with, and a tight end too if you buy into Sample. But I'd rather stack him with his great pass catching and high volume wideouts, whether it's Boyd, whether it's AJ Green, who's been extremely touchdown unlucky with 8 end zone targets, second in the league, getting a ton of volume, 10 plus targets in the last 2 games, 0 touchdowns through the first 7 games. I'm willing to bet anybody that if the volume in the passing game and the volume in the red zone and the end zone stays the same with AJ Green for the next 7 weeks, he will have greater than 0 touchdowns by the end of the season. I think that that's a sharp bet. As I said, Tyler Boyd in the slot, Tennessee struggling against opposing slot receivers. And I love the volume that he's getting. Higgins is popping as a value in a lot of different projection models that I've looked at so far this week. We're getting solid volume and consistent volume from him as well. And he's such a big target that he is finding his way into the end zone, very young and spry as well. AJ Green at 4,500 is just too cheap considering the volume that he's getting all over the field, and especially once they get in the end zone. And I think we have the added bonus of people not wanting to click AJ Green's name into their lineups. So as we go back over to the Rotogrinders lineup builder, we're going to enable. I'm going to allow 1 to 2. And you know what? I don't hate saying I want all double stacks with Burrow as many times as he's being forced to throw the ball. Tennessee is the favorite in this game, as you would expect. Cincinnati is going to be an underdog pretty much in all the games that they play. They're not efficient on defense. They allow opposing teams to score a ton, which has kept Burrow's attempts at or around 40% or above 40%, or at or above 40 attempts per game. He has completed 65+% of his passes on the year. He's completing a ton of passes, and the vast majority of them go to his wide receivers. So using exactly 2, I'm fine with. We do have to monitor Joe Mixon. If he's healthy, then we go with Joe Mixon. If he's not healthy, then we go with Gio Bernard. A very easy if-then statement, but I'm not going to include either in my groups with Joe Burrow stacks. If you want to include Sample, that's fine. At 3,400, I may or may not. I'll leave him in for now. But as I said, you've got a very condensed target tree with these 3 guys. None of them projected for over 15% rostership this week, and really friendly prices. And we have the easy ability to bring it back with 1 to 2 players on Tennessee. Derrick Henry, he's good. He's also going to carry a lot of players with him. If you want to use him in your stacks, I'm fine with it. Cincinnati, just not a good defense. Jonnu Smith, great. AJ Brown, awesome. Humphreys, whatever, on these other 2 guys. So I'm going to be using 1 to 2 guys in those Burrow stacks. And my final stack of the week, Derek Carr is in play. He's 5,500 going up against Cleveland and provides us with a chance to either leverage off of or get you onto the other side of the projected played guys that are going to be highly rostered on Cleveland. Whether it's Harrison Bryant at tight end, whether it's Kareem Hunt, this game has a really high total. The Derek Carr does have Ruggs back in this game. We're talking about a 54.5 total in this game where they're on the road and should have to throw to be effective. I don't think they're going to be able to just bleed clock unless something goes completely wrong and they play from ahead and then they just go to Jacobs all day long. Carr has been good, guys. People don't like rostering Derek Carr as well. But he's been good, especially the last 3 games that they've had to score. He's had 300 yards in 2 of those 3, 284 in the other one, multiple touchdowns in all of his last 4 games, including against and at New England. We know who we can throw the ball to. We know that Ruggs is in play. Aguilar's been fantastic at 4,700. Ruggs is just too cheap at 4,900, but high variance between his floor and his ceiling. Great tournament play. A little bit tougher for cash. And if you want to go with Hunter Renfrow at 38 as a value as well, knowing how much Cleveland has struggled against players who line up in the slot, I'm fine with him as well. And then also Darren Waller lines up in the slot also, and he's good. And we have a very short sample size, but it's the only sample that we have. He's averaging over 17 Draftkings points per game in the games where Ruggs plays and 10 fantasy points per game in the games that Ruggs does not play. So Ruggs pulling defenders and safeties off the line of scrimmage and giving Waller more space to operate. The majority of Waller's catches, the majority of his fantasy points come on throws that are less than 10 air yards. Like 86 or 87% of the points that he scores come on throws that are close to the line of scrimmage. Also, I love it when the puzzle pieces fit. Cleveland has allowed the worst completion rate in the league on passes that have less than a 10 air yard distance from the line of scrimmage. So Cleveland bad at stopping what Waller does, and having Ruggs back to pull them even further off the line also helps us here. So going to our car stacks, we're going to activate him. I'm going to use 1 to 2 of all those players that we just talked about. This is the bring back stack. Let's do the bring back stack first. As I said, Kareem Hunt projected to be very highly played this weekend. Harrison Bryant, 12.3. Andy opens up a lot. I think it might even be higher than that 12% number. Closer to like 15, maybe 18% if Hooper is out again, and we expect him to be. The question. Landry is solid. He's going to be where he is. Rashard Higgins is the one who stepped in last week for Odell Beckham Jr. when he went down with injury, but Hodge was playing ahead of Higgins before he was on IR. We're going to see if and when he comes back, if he moves back into that more routes run role. So that's something to monitor as the week goes on. Hodge versus Higgins, if you're looking for somebody to play as a value play. Going to the primary stack here. Did it backwards, but at least we got it done. Josh Jacobs. No, not going to use him in that stack. Witten. No. Waller. Yes. The island of Foster Moreau. No. Edwards. No. Aguilar, Renfro, Henry Ruggs. I'm going to use exactly 2 of these guys in those stacks. If you want to use 1 to 2, I'm fine with that as well. And then we're going to run our groups, and that's the way that we're going to do it. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you once again for showing up to just another video. I'll be back tomorrow where we do our lineup builder show, which is recorded live on Twitch, where I take questions for an hour to prepare you guys for the Sunday slate. So if you wanted to pop over to Twitch and catch the live recording of the show and be a part of the show, as opposed to just watching the show on YouTube, would love to meet you. Stop on by and look for another video right there.
He's a legend.